Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Becky Metcalfe, and on behalf of Design Centre Chelsea Harbour, a very warm welcome to London Design Week. Isn't it really nice to be back together in real life? Well, a bit of housekeeping first. If I could ask everybody just to check their phones and put them to silent. Well, we are in for a real treat. We've literally got a star panel today. We've got Naomi Heaton, we've got Federico Terezzi, we've got Joe Littlefair and Stephen Collins. And who better to speak to them than the editorial director of Hospitality Interiors, Jan Fike. So I think we should give them a very, very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good to see so many familiar faces. Appreciate you all coming out this afternoon. What a great panel. I'd like to introduce to my left, Naomi Heaton, CEO of The Other House. Once we've done an intro, let them talk a bit about what they've got coming up and what they're doing, and then we'll have a good hour conversation. I was going to do some questions from the audience. I'll see what happens, because I know sometimes there will be some questions, but there is no mic, so it will be a shout out. Jonathan at the front, you have some questions, I take it, yeah? Yeah, good. Excellent. Okay, fine. Then we have Federico Terezzi, he's Global Vice President of Luxury Brands from Aqua. He's come in this morning from Paris, is that right? It is. Thank you very much for that. Then we have Joe Littlefair from Goddard Littlefair, a great design studio based in London and with a second studio in Porto as well. And then we have Stephen Collins. Stephen Collins, owner of Mayfair Townhouse, as well as a couple of other properties, also executive director of this lovely building, Design Centre Chelsea Harbour. So I have to have him as well. So I appreciate that. Thanks very much, guys.
Pleasure.
So let's get straight into it, okay? We have to touch on the pandemic. I don't really want to delve too much into it, so we can try and move on, even though we now have a bigger issue as well coming up. So the pandemic has no doubt been disastrous for the industry. Has the development side, have you seen from that, the development side be disastrous, or is it coming back? I mean, is deals being done? I mean, this is a question for Naomi and Stephen and others.
Okay, well, hello everyone, lovely to see you all. The Other House is a new brand of a residence club that we're launching, and I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to tell you all about it shortly, but at the moment we are acquiring a number of assets in prime central London. So our first asset is in South Kensington, which is an over 200-room asset, and we just got planning in Covent Garden for another 189. So we're talking about large properties, and we're acquiring some more. And yes, of course, the pandemic combined with Brexit has been very impactful on business. Clearly, we've seen prices go up considerably. We've seen shortages of supplies. Clearly, COVID led to absences and all of those kind of things. Cost of goods, supply chains, delivery times, absenteeism, for inevitable reasons, has caused projects to run slower than they would otherwise. Okay. So yes, it has a major impact. The only good side, I suppose, is that for future developments we can plan. We've seen at least inflation of 20% on our goods. We know they're going to take longer to come in, that we have to order earlier. So we can start planning for the future. But it's been very different from what we expected. And clearly the project's taken longer than we had anticipated. The only thing I would say from a construction point of view is that I'm pleased for ourselves that we were in a development phase rather than in an operational or launch phase. So others have had it in a much more difficult way than we have. We've just had to change the management of what we're doing. And in terms of finding new possibilities, acquiring new hospitality assets, last year, interestingly, there was very little available. I think people were managing to be supported through on government schemes. But this year, we're seeing a lot more really exciting properties becoming available on the market, which will enable us to increase our exposure.
Okay. I mean, obviously the Westbury Hotel is now sold. It's now going to be St Regis, which is going to be coming just off Bond Street. Stephen, for you, obviously Mayfair Townhouse launched just before COVID.
It was during the pandemic.
The pandemic.
Yeah. We're coming from a slightly different angle, where one takes a self-contained property, but it's been refurbished like a mini hotel, but you take it exclusively. And that's my blueprint going forward, because I've got experience. I have an estate in Gloucestershire. I have another situation very similar in Tuscany in the south of France. And I realised before the pandemic there was a real demand for people wanting to stay in exclusive and privacy. We have a very interesting client base at Henry's already, where we were going to be very dependent on the American market, and of course what's going on in Ukraine isn't helping because they're suddenly thinking we're at war in Europe. So we've got to be careful. We were going to be very dependent on the Americans coming in groups and then taking them up to the Cotswolds, taking them down to Tuscany. But we have had some interesting businessmen who want to be totally private. We've had interesting people in the entertainment field, photo shoots, and also using the house for just the odd evenings, celebrations. Okay. But it's interesting, when you're actually in your rooms in the house, you feel as if you're in a hotel, and we bespoke your stay, but actually you can run around and be at ease with your friends. The interesting thing is that people don't want very much, actually. Otherwise they would stay in a hotel. They want to be left alone, entertain their own friends as if they're in their own house, and just enjoy the atmosphere.
Okay, Joe, from a design side, obviously Mayfair Townhouse is one of your recent projects, as well as Mondrian Shoreditch and so on. Are you finding it has gone quiet and now it's coming back from a design side? Are you pitching left, right and centre?
Yeah,
That's
the
good.
latter, which is
That's
great.
good. That's what we want to hear.
And actually, even during the pandemic, we were really lucky. I think one project did go on hold, and that was it. But it was various circumstances around it, actually uncertainty from the developer about it had a big shoulder season. It was in Montenegro, and they just thought, actually, this isn't what we're going to invest in right now. Okay. Other developers, if they were doing a refurbishment or anything like that, found it an opportunity to actually invest the time and get things right and go for it, because actually their properties weren't, it required. They were able to sort of investigate these things, have mock-up rooms with ease without disrupting their normal flow. So for a lot of people, it was kind of an optimum time to do the design process, which was really cool. And then obviously Mayfair Townhouse, I think, launched similarly to
Similar time.
Yeah, and very different property, obviously, huge, much bigger scale and so on. But that launched and had to close within 2 weeks, unfortunately, and then reopen in May. It came back and did really well, and we worked on Mondrian.
We were able to keep ours open, where people were able to stay in groups or their family networks. So
that's good.
From that point of view, we were very lucky. And the countryside, of course, has been booming, absolutely.
Yes.
At Temple Guiting, in the old days, we were just attracting people for weekend retreats, but we're now getting corporates coming because they haven't seen each other, families coming, just to be together and to spend some good time together.
But Joe, are you this side since Christmas? Are you finding then that it's you're travelling? Obviously, everyone's travelling more, which is great.
Yeah.
But those pitches are now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Really hard and fast, actually, which is
pitching
great.
for Federico for Aqua as well.
Might well be, yeah.
Of course, okay. Federico, obviously, I know you're not involved in the development side, but from what you see, through the offices and so on, you're busy?
We're super busy. I mean,
how many brands?
We have 42 brands, a few more to come in the next few months. We're launching some new ones as well that we've created from scratch. I mean, just to tie up the questioning, the development part of things has not stopped. So we went during the 2 years and a half of the pandemic. We had more things to look at than ever before. It gave us a great opportunity to work new brands into something that had more time to be designed. We also had some time to come up with new brands. So we launched Emblems earlier this year or late last year, which is a luxury collections brand, because there's a big appetite for development. So there's a lot of people that are looking at opportunities for catching this new way of traveling. So Stephen was saying people want to stay longer, but actually people want to do more when they go someplace. This is why they want to stay longer. So that whole aspect of hospitality is somewhat shifting to a longer stay. And that's opened up new opportunities for us in terms of market sectors. Okay. So we're really focusing on resorts and extended stay. And we're doing a huge exercise of repositioning. We've got All-Inclusive is our new resort brand, which obviously takes all our other brands and it gives them that extra lift. But also strategically wise, so going back to what I do, the way we design things is changing so that we can allow for this new growth of development, new spurt of development to kind of last the next 5 to 10 years. What we do strategically is placing our guests in an environment that they would enjoy in the future. And by learning from the past. So that's really cool, and we're setting up a lot of new things because of the fact that we had a bit of time to think.
Okay, don't give any more away on that because it's going to come back to it in a bit. How many designers in the room? Okay, we've got quite a few. Okay, excellent. Okay, question. And so you're using Bergman Interiors for South Ken. Russell Sage, obviously worked on Henry Townhouse. And then Joe Mondrian Shoreditch, well done. Do you find a benefit on using your big name designers in your marketing, do you think on that side of it as well when you're choosing your designer?
That's a very interesting question. When we chose our designer, which was Bergman Interiors, they were very much at the beginning of their trajectory.
Okay.
And what I love doing is to work with people who are really talented, who throw great potential, but are actually probably at the start of where they're going, rather than at the pinnacle of where they're going. So the choice with Bergman, when they pitched, and that was in, I think, 2020, so we're talking about 2 years ago, that they understood the brand, they understood our vision, what we were trying to do, and at that point they seemed a really great partner and a really obvious way to go ahead. So that wasn't my first thought. I would say that with Marie of Bergman Interiors, we're a great combination, two women, both owning our own businesses, working together. So there's a kind of fantastic marketing momentum by us combining our resources, and we can use our PR marketing machines and she can use her own. But I also think that although it's wonderful to be coupled with good designers per se, because they're going to create the great designs, I think sometimes you can get a bit industry phobic or a bit looking just at the industry, and whereas the industry may know about all those wonderful names, that's not necessarily what the general consumer will see, unless of course you're talking about something which is really high end, where the design really, really matters. So I don't think it's just for marketing purposes, but of course it helps. It's much more to do with working with the right designer to create the best possible project.
Okay, Stim?
See, we worked with Russell Sage, who were jolly good, but you've got to be careful that you don't get the look of Russell Sage. We didn't want it to look like the Five Farms or the other things that he's done. So when you're staying at Henry's, I want to give people an experience, and it should fit. Most of our clients, generally speaking, have got nice homes, but when you come to something that's as an individual, they've got to go away thinking, you know what, that was a bit different. It feels like a home. It doesn't feel like the Five Farms. It's not full of stuffed animals. And we had to put our own touches on it as well. Photographs, just a few little things that make such a difference. The designers generally are very good on the technical side, putting the air conditioning in the right spot, putting all the TV points, all the phone points in the right spot. But if you leave them completely to it, I'll get something that's already out there. It's got to be a bit quirky, and it has to be an experience.
Still going to work with Joe though, because that's
I was
completely
gonna say,
different from what they do.
We should have a chat.
There we go.
We are.
There we go.
Well, we are, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we don't really come to a project thinking we're going to put the Goddard Littlefare stamp on it.
Yeah.
It's got to be an individual project. Every owner, every operator has a completely different ambition for their project.
Especially if you're staying in a self-contained house.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, you do have a very unique property and a very unique angle on that as well. But we do a lot more than put the TV in the right place, I promise you. But yeah, we do, every project we want to have something individual because Martin and myself get bored otherwise, quite frankly.
No, because it's hard to create a brand if you're doing individual properties like that. But as long as you get known for providing something that's exceptional, really good, a manager on site who acts as a concierge can get you a chef at 5 minutes notice and do it and get you theatre tickets, then you've got something that's completely different but individual.
Yeah.
Let's go on to this, be a bit sort of like, cause some trouble here. So a lot of designers say owners are difficult. Okay, they're always looking at.
They are.
Yeah.
They are
Okay.
difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
In
are
the
you
same way as you're probably difficult if you're doing your home. You know, because it's your own personal taste. You think you're good at everything. You think you know it all. But there's no point having a designer if you don't listen.
Okay. So that's a good.
You have to listen. and then make your decision.
And how do you find that, Joe, with owners?
Um,
I know not all owners are the same, but let's be
no,
honest, let's be
every
clear.
owner is completely different, and we go across multidisciplines. So hospitality is our absolute core and our passion, but we do straddle into the residential market as well. So I know firsthand how difficult and how personal that becomes. I think with the hospitality projects, I love the fact that there are parameters that mean that you'll make a commercial success of a building, and that there are parameters for everyone to play within. And everyone will have a different opinion. It's very subjective. Design is super subjective, but we need to have boundaries that pull us all together and we unite on one thing to go forward with. And it can't be about one person with hospitality. It's about the guest, it's about the building, it's about how it's going to perform, and that will produce a success.
I mean, that's right. And I think we can talk about owners, i.e. private homeowners, who have particular likes or dislikes. But obviously, we are owner, developer, and operator of the other house.
Yeah.
And as an owner, which I am a part owner with APG, which is one of the largest pension funds in the world, we had a vision for the other house. And the other house is a residence club. The other house is taking the best of residential living and placemaking and experience with the best of hotel service, and bringing it all together so that people can really feel that they are at home, but they can access hotel-style services. And obviously, we're looking at an environment where we're talking about any length stay. We're not saying hotel short stay, residential long stay. We're saying let's bring it all together and mash it all together and disrupt the whole hospitality sector by doing that. And that means that the whole design concept of the other house, which is that we have club flats, we have distinct living areas, bedroom, kitchen for our residents, whether they're here for a day or a year. But we also have our private members club, so that if our residents, who are always a member of that club as long as they stay with us, want to have that kind of entertain a client, entertain a friend, sit on their favourite sofa with a drink, they can do it. And we have spa and fitness, or we have fantastic, exciting public areas. So the whole concept of the other house is taking lifestyle on a whole nother generation for another generation. And all of the design elements need to fit into that, right from the fact that we wanted to create something which was very experiential, very bold, very exciting, lots of colour, very textured, not kind of Scandi and white box. So that was part of our vision, but also how we use those different kinds of spaces. And that's why you have to work so closely with an interior designer to be able to create those particular, that particular positioning to attract the kind of people that we want to attract, and to convey the messages what we want to convey, which isn't just through the interior design, but of course what people see is ultimately the first thing that they take into account. You can have all that infrastructure beneath, you can have all your operational service beneath, and we want to operate it in a way which isn't like a hotel, which is very tech-based, because the digital generation want those things that can be made easier to be easier. But the interior design element, along with how we work with our architects, they're all pieces of a puzzle to create that final entity, that final look that appeals to our target market. So it's very much an interaction to get the best result.
What COVID has done, is the most important questions I'm getting asked is, how good is your technology? Because they want to work from their place as well. They want to use their house as an office. They want to have board meetings to the States and to the Far East. So they want to use the premises as a whole for entertaining those that are in London, to speak and have so you've got to create nice desks, plenty of technology. The pantry dining room can turn into a boardroom, it can flip over. It's about being able
Use the space.
to use all space and have flexibility wherever you are.
So it's, I think it's quite interesting, because what I focus on is the guest journey, and then I see that guest journey across my brands that I have to deal with. And everybody's saying all the stuff that we've been thinking about, but it's not really about how it looks, it's about how it feels. And then you can derive a brand from all the other touch points, right? So how do you feel in this brand? And then what does that brand give you in terms of visual impacts, or what it looks like? What does it give you in terms of services? Do you have flexibility of space? You know,
So you're a bit, let me just quickly, you're a bit different because obviously you used to work for Initial Campbell, you worked 1508 and now you've gone brand side. But what you're doing is you're really taking all the layers away and starting from scratch.
well, I think
As a brand, on the brand.
What's interesting to hear is I don't start from scratch because I have a marketing team that gives me a brand, right? It's just kind of somebody has a baby and then hands it over, can you raise it for me?
Orient Express.
Right, example. Well, Orient Express is a special one because I was part of the team that created the brand 4 years ago. But essentially, you start from a point that this brand is supposed to give you certain emotions, and it's supposed to take you on a particular journey. Orient Express, obviously, even more. And you come from a perspective of you don't have an owner, right? So you don't have somebody who's going to put their own money behind it. But how do you give a potential owner a reason to make money, a reason to invest? But how do you give your guests a reason to want to spend their money and to invest? So you have to create this journey. When you work with people like Joe and Martin and everybody else, who know that it's not about what it looks like, but it's about how each step feels. Then you can build on top of that. You can layer things on. And so with Orient Express, it's very much a layered thing because it comes from this concept of travel. But the beauty of it is the journey and not the destination, right? So the whole point is that even the hotel itself has to keep you thinking that you're traveling, that you're experiencing new things. So you have to create spaces that can evolve during the day, that can give you a different food and beverage outlet, or to become into something quite calm in the morning, but quite private in the evening. So you have to start thinking about that. So everything we go through is on each brand, trying to keep it on its rails. So if we've got something like the other house, there's a very layered, very domestic approach to service. So even that inspires the design. So what I do is I work with the brand teams, I work with potentially the owner teams, and we create this journey, and then we document it. And we get designers like Joe and Martin to come and work with us at the very, very beginning to give us their insight. That's why designers are really good for what we do, not because I'm one by trade, but also because they're like specialists and they know what's going on. They know, they have had feedback over the years. They know how to add value to what you're doing.
And no, it's great having had that experience of seeing something on paper, but then realising how it's going to be three-dimensionally, how you're going to feel. I was just looking at the CGIs of Raffles, which is a project we've been really heavily involved in, and that journey, it's 5 layers of subterranean basement. I mean, it's just an incredible journey, and carving out spaces within pre-existing, parameters. It's been a very difficult project to achieve what the brand wanted, what the owner wanted, but it will be a journey, and it will be one that feels intuitive. And I think getting that to happen involves, you have to really zone into how people feel in spaces, what they want to experience. Do they want to relax? Do they want an active journey? How do we keep them separate so that their journey is completely tailored to them? And it's fabulous. So,
but I would say, you said what it looks like is the main thing, but what it looks like is really, really important, because what it looks like does feed into your perception and your experience. And what I would say with us, I've been working on this project for 10 years. We've kissed a lot of princes to get to the point where we've been able to launch it. And of course, we were very lucky with the prince that we finally kissed. But in 2019, this is all a piece of paper. So it wasn't only just creating the look and the feel of the asset, it's what's the messaging, what's the branding, what's the marketing look like, what's the operation look like. And what we've always said is, we're not a hotel. We want to be our guests' other house, because we want them to feel that they are in control, that we reflect their values, and that we are creating experiences, and they can be any kind of person they want. As you said, multi-purpose space, work, rest, play. With our cafe, we never wanted fine dining, but we've got a wonderful street cafe with ever-changing pot du jour, seasonal menus. But in the evening, we're going to have pop-up restaurants and guest chefs and supper clubs. So always changing all the experience. But I would say that the physical expression of everything that we're trying to achieve is absolutely vital in the interior design, in the china and the design of the china, in the fact that we are paperless in pretty much every single respect because of our huge sustainability ambitions. So I think appearance does matter. I think appearance, because actually, what do people generally react to? We can talk as much as we want, but ultimately they're going to react to what it looks like. They'll react to those visuals on the screen. I always say pictures speak 1,000 words, and I think that they do.
So designers are worth their weight in gold then?
Designers are, of course, worth their weight in gold. And if they can push the vision forward, move it forward to
So
something more.
Joe, we sort of touched on it. So do you think about loyalty then when you're designing for that brand?
Do I think about
Loyalty.
as into the hotel to
Yeah,
create
as in like,
that
for
sort
instance, let's say in Orient Express, if you're
Yeah.
designing, you want them to start thinking
Repeat.
about repeat guests.
Yeah.
Because that's so important, isn't it, for repeats?
Absolutely, and I think that is absolutely key to part of our design as well. We look at the target market of every property, and it changes. You know, the demographic changes for each property, and you have to key into what they want and can make sure they can't get it anywhere else. You know, you've thought above and beyond what that person is looking for, and you're flexible enough to provide
Four
it.
Seasons Istanbul.
Yep.
You're working on that one at the moment, yeah?
Yeah.
So obviously Four Seasons, they have that service is what they're known
Yeah.
for, super luxury and so on.
Yeah.
So that will obviously is a big part of it when you're doing Istanbul. It has to be on that loyalty side.
Absolutely, and that's the thing about a Four Seasons. You know you're going to be looked after. They put their arms around you, and as designers, we have to give them all of that opportunity to really service their guest. So that's everything from the welcome, taking through to experiences within the lobby that really make them think that they've come to Istanbul, they've arrived in the old town. You know, okay, what does this? Just the way we've designed things and so on that resonate with the local atmosphere, through to how the room lays out, what opportunities there are in there. The desk isn't a desk, it's a dining table that can obviously be flexible, but it feels glamorous. It feels like you can have your private meal for two in a beautiful bedroom with high windows overlooking a courtyard in the heart of the old town. It's super romantic property, although it was once a jail. So talk about transforming.
A bit of history there.
Yeah.
Are you putting desks back into rooms now? Because we spent so long taking desks out, and I suppose Steve, Naomi, you can answer that question and as well. You on the future, because I'm finding obviously I travel. I have the best job in the world, just so everyone knows. I get to travel and just review hotels.
Just
review hotels. That's all I do. But I'm finding now I'm sitting on the bed with a laptop.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
To be
neck
comfortable.
ache. All right, we get to have a free spa treatment after. But you know, is our desks coming back?
We have a table in each of our club flats, and we have a dressing table which can combine as a desk or a desk.
Okay.
And in fact, in Covent Garden, we're going to make our desks even bigger.
Wow.
Desks definitely will be there
Definitely
to
coming
stay.
back, and then you can interpret them as you wish. So from a very, very eco brand, you may have something that comes out of the wall, so to save space, and you can have pull down desks, to luxury brands where the desk becomes a feature, maybe like a dining table or a dressing table, and it becomes almost like a centerpiece, and it has a multitude of uses. But we're finding that if there isn't anything to write on, it's also just because of the way that we work now with the laptop. We have to put it somewhere, and everybody can see.
But you need quite big rooms for decent desks. That's the problem.
So
not necessarily big rooms for these desks. You just if you design them well, you can get away with a moderate sized room.
So with Henry's, that wouldn't be a major focus.
No, they're all large
but your
rooms.
other property.
No, I was just changing the subject. Most of the beautiful buildings in London are listed. Mine all are, as it happens, and abroad, which means energy prices. It's very hard to switch the energy around and make them green. In the countryside are many of these boutique hotels, which are beautiful, still run with oil and liquid gas. Now, those prices, are going through the roof. How do you make a profit when those oil prices are going? You've got to be so careful now with those outgoings. Now, listed buildings are expensive to run. They're big rooms, and the air conditioning and everything else that goes with it. So there's another task on our hands to deal with energy.
Well, I think we all have to be committed to sustainability and the way that we build. And currently our buildings which is our skill, is refurbish buildings and making them fit for purpose and space optimizing. But everything that you do in terms of the fact that we don't use gas, we use electricity.
Yeah, but some villages don't have them. Some places, even today. And the parish councils are not on your side for all this. That's the problem. They don't want solar paneling, and they don't want solar this and that. It's a task.
God, a little bit. Do they have a sustainability team now in the office?
Yeah. I mean, well, we have a really young lovely team of designers, and it's a core passion for a lot of us, for Martin and myself as well. So, and we are fortunately working with owners who are very sustainably minded. So one of the projects we're working on in the Red Sea is Platinum BREEAM level. It's with Foster's as the architect, and they are sort of making a commitment to develop intensively one part of that project whilst being able to commit the rest of it to nature and to let that go. But things like we're designing, the lighting so it doesn't create light pollution, how they're cooling the coral reef with pipes of water. I mean, it is fabulous and it gives me real hope and optimism, but I think we just have to design really carefully from the outset. It's about our approach to that timelessness, and I think our designs hopefully fit the building, fit the market, and therefore will have an ability to transcend time and keep going. And so, operators, owners, they don't want to be ripping things out unnecessarily. We want to put in materials that last and have quality and resonate with the building. So that's how we really
And also you don't want to have to revisit to make it more sustainable at a later date.
Yeah.
If one has the opportunity, and I take your point that's in some places very difficult, one has to go out with those criteria and parameters right from the outset.
I think
You'll
find as operators, there's quite a few things I want to talk about this, because part of my job is also to work on the sustainability of our buildings, because we operate, we don't own, right? So we can only make certain demands on certain things, but actually we have a whole technical guideline that actually informs our development teams what to ask for in terms of when you sign a building. Then we have another development guideline that actually tells our designers of how to choose materials. And then we have another development guideline that tells our operation teams what to look for in terms of operating in a town. That means that I'm working with teams that are trying to save water. They are trying to save electricity. We're trying to figure out how we can be carbon neutral. But I'm also working on teams that give me things like bioluminescence. Like, how can you naturally light a space?
Wow.
And I'm working on prototype rooms right now in Singapore that are going to have ways of saving water, ways of saving electricity, ways of having a carbon neutrality fit out. So, and then we translate all that into guidelines and we put it into our contract. So then we speak to design teams around the world and they get my briefing document, which talk about the brand. This is part of that.
And the owners are on board?
So this is quite an interesting thing as well. You remember when LEDs came into the market many moons ago? Nobody wanted to buy them because they're too expensive. And now everything has got an LED in it. So it's pretty much the same thing now. Is that they see that if they can make a small investment into something that is a new technology, but eventually will save money. There's two kinds of owners really. Owners that keep a building and owners that flip a building. The owners that keep a building are very much interested in that long-term saving, but also the publicity they get, because the guests are going to come in and they're going to want to have a better stay for the environment as well as anything else. So it all starting to make sense. And of course, the technology is becoming available that is not that expensive to have a shower that recycles the heat of the water, so you can put it back in heating the water, or
But of course, sustainability is increasingly becoming a criteria for funders, and ultimately, the value of your investment, if we look at it from an investment point of view, will deteriorate if you aren't sustainable, and you may get to the point when you can't even sell it, or you have to sell it at a discount. So any investor, any developer, this has to be part of their commercial consideration, even if the upfront cost is greater than it would be otherwise. Ultimately, it's going to save you money. And we're also introducing things like on our app, which enables people to do anything whenever they want, however they want, if that's how they choose to live their life. We can monitor the energy in the building, so people can see real time how much energy the building is consuming, and they, if they want to, can alter their behavior in order to make sure the consumption is where it should be for that time of day or night or whatever. So that you actually enable people within your building who are using your building to make a positive contribution, because actually they want to.
Okay.
What's interesting is some of these sustainable companies starting to come to the design centre.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's all part of the package.
Okay. Naomi, question for you. Covent Garden and South Kensington is going to be your two venues, first thing. They're totally different vibes, okay? What made you choose those locations?
They are totally different vibes, you're absolutely right. And we believe absolutely, and always have, because I've been involved in investing in central London, in prime central London for 30 years. The prime central London is made up of lots of different villages. Each of those villages have a different vibe, different people want to live there for different reasons. whether it be work or leisure or whatever. And Covent Garden and South Kensington are two such villages. They're as far as, they're really on our boundaries. So now we will be filling in, and that was just where the opportunities turned up. But now we're looking at Fitzrovia, we're looking at Marylebone, we're looking at Notting Hill, we're looking at Pimlico. So we will be going into other villages, and what we're going to offer our residents club will be the same for anyone, wherever. They will all look a little bit different, but my background was advertising as a director of Saatchi & Saatchi. I believe, if it hasn't already become clear, passionate about branding and messaging. And we called it The Other House. It's The Other House Covent Garden or The Other House South Kensington, because how do you get a brand name instilled? You keep to the same name. But equally, our interiors will be different for the areas. They will evolve over time. In fact, they're probably going to become more and more and more individualistic and distinctive. So you will be able to walk into another house and you will know it's another house, and all our operational standards and everything that we believe in will be there, but they will all look and feel slightly different. So South Ken is probably a little bit more traditional in the kind of audience it's got. Covent Garden is kind of obviously very busy, lots of vibe. You will definitely know they're related. They are both old buildings. In fact, Covent Garden is 7 different beautiful buildings on an island site, so that creates all sorts of opportunity. But they will live to their buildings, they will live to their area, but they will definitely be cousins, and that will happen when we launch overseas too.
Okay. How many rooms, Covent Garden?
Covent Garden, we have permission for 189 club flats.
Okay. And then the third property to come, do we know yet?
Yeah, the third, we
Are you allowed to say? Hold on.
No, I can't say anything else. We bid on 3,
Okay.
and 2 are similar kind of size to South Kensington
Okay.
and Covent Garden. They can be smaller, but if we want to provide our lovely Owl and Monkey destination bar, as well as our other kitchen and our members club, they do need to be of a certain size in order to be able to deliver all of that.
Sure. Henry's Townhouse.
Yeah.
Do we have a sister or brother coming?
We have in Tuscany, El Torre di Santo, which is midway between Florence and Siena, in its own valley. And we have one in Cap Ferrat next to the Grand Hotel, where we can have a lot of fun and be self-contained and bespoke.
Number 1 in London, maybe?
Well, we have been looking in Bloomsbury, actually,
Okay.
for another Henry's. I like Bloomsbury. It's slightly underrated. Fitzrovia. Lovely, charming houses. Really, they can't be too big, you see. The optimum size with a beautiful Regency house, probably 7 to 8 bedrooms, because then the party becomes too big, becomes less exclusive. It has to be the right size. A couple of families, really, with a chef and a house manager.
Okay. Joe, let's touch on Old War Office.
Yeah.
Okay, some pictures were released this week.
Yes.
You're working on the spa.
We are indeed.
Okay, so give us some information about it. So Old War Office is Raffles coming to London over, well, it's by Downing Street, isn't it? It's over that way.
Royal Horse Guards.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a sort of triumvirate.
Good spot.
It is a great spot, and obviously they've got
Nice
some serious,
location.
it's a great location. So, yeah, a fantastic building, existing site, and I think the spa, it was almost the last piece of the puzzle that they designed, the owner approached for design, and it's because I think it's so complex, but the pool, when you get to it, it's the longest subterranean pool. I think Martin, is it 25 metres?
Thank you, Martin.
Martin's great with numbers. But yeah, it's really handy.
Yeah, it's a good pool.
It's a really beautiful it's a competition for the RAC club, really, which is a very memorable pool,
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
iconic.
Yeah.
And it will have the same sense of scale and space. But the journey itself takes you from daylight on the first floor, deeper and deeper, and as you become deeper, you become more immersed. And, your whole journey and to relaxation starts. It's got lots of flexible spaces that you can use for, classes as well, and yoga, etc., and juice bars and things like that, and animation. But it's also got that deeply intense relaxation floor, which we've got a different aesthetic, it's a different colour scheme. So I can't wait to visit myself, but
Okay.
hopefully very soon.
When's it open?
Should we say next year?
What's next year?
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got someone
just
from
say
Aqua.
next year. I know.
2023.
Yeah. And we're
Okay.
not going to say anything more than that.
The spa will be open to the public, not just the hotel.
I think it will, yes.
We'll check it out.
But obviously, a little bit of pressure on you guys for doing that spa because Corinthia is next door, and
Correct.
in my opinion, Corinthia is the best spa in London.
Yeah.
But what the funny thing about it is, Martin designed the Corinthia spa
Yeah.
about years ago. So I might as well ask you in the audience: have you felt the pressure on that when you're? Let's be honest, you've got to compete against the Corinthia spa.
Two completely different concepts.
Okay.
Although they are obviously next to each other, they have totally different feels. I mean, the Aqua spa is very wellness focused and very much sort of it's a kind of eerie piece of that building, where the Corinthia was supposed to be something completely
Yeah.
unexpected. You wouldn't have expected to be there, and so I think the concepts were very different. And the vibe, we sort of, the Corinthia spa was all about Chanel. It was all about the being very sort of,
Design.
wellness is also extravagance. Wellness is also, a glass of champagne and chocolate cake. It's not, and that's what that spa was about. Where I think the OO spa is very grounded in the building, very grounded in the history of that site. And some areas are almost extension of listed areas. So you feel the RAC is a good reference actually. The way that you transcend in the RAC down to the pool and it's all connected. That's kind of how that one feels. There is a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it reflects the brand's wish for emotional well-being. So one of the Raffles pillars is emotional well-being, and that in itself is driving a lot of the design dialect of the brand.
Okay.
So the wellness
Yeah.
on the spa, but also the way we're now doing rooms, and in
Yes.
fact the whole guest journey is based around what we call design for harmony, which is coming out of
Sofitel.
that.
Let's talk about Sofitel, the vitality side.
Swiss
of it.
Hotel.
Swiss Hotel. Sorry, apologies. Swiss Hotel.
Yeah, so we experimented with immersive guest journeys about 5 years ago, where Swiss Hotel, which is one of our beautiful brands, it's all about vitality, and it's really about giving people space to enjoy their stay. Then we kind of stepped it up a little bit because we had a vitality program in the food and beverage sector. We had a vitality program through a brand called Puraba, which is a bespoke brand to Swiss Hotel, which has essential Swiss mountain oils, but also has very much treatments that are based on being Swiss. And so vitality throughout the guest journey, so again, it's going back to the guest journey, became an element that we put in the guest rooms. And the guest rooms then gave us the opportunity to experiment about giving flexibility of space. So we had an area where you could do workouts with a cyber trainer, you could do yoga, you could work, you could change the way the light was affecting you, and you could tailor your space for that. And that has inspired, in fact, a lot of the things we're doing with Raffles. And Raffles is coming from emotional well-being to design for harmony, which is a feng shui-inspired way of taking the whole hotel and positioning it with biophilia built in, with well-being, with wellness built in, to the point where we're now about to launch the first experiment for an immersive guest room experience. So the room feels you, and you feel the room in a particular way. And it's really about having technology help you, but also having service help you. But both of those are kind of hidden away. So it's the evolution of a guest stay, and this is where Raffles is we think, at the forefront of that, because you can create amazing spaces within amazing buildings, but you layer in these experiences and this kind of knowledge that we've built over the years about making the journey the focal point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And is wellness important on your side?
Yes, wellness is very important for us. And what we have decided to do is to concentrate not so much in our members club and our spa area in beauty treatments, which people will be able to get in their rooms, and we've all set that up via the app, but wellness, all sorts of meditation and other kinds of experiences. We will be able to have sub-connections with gurus, with meditation experts. We will have a meditation pod, but everything is to do with all sorts of those kind of spiritual well-being experiences that people really welcome, and it's a whole approach which is probably not very significant in our kind of South Kensington catchment area, or indeed in the Covent Garden area. There are probably lots of places where people can go and have beauty treatments, but this is going to be much more holistic, much more to spiritual well-being, and we're going to be doing something absolutely groundbreaking, special on that, called the Other Space.
Okay. And regarding your country property,
I was just going to discuss, we're the total opposite from wellness. We've got a wonderful honesty bar. And Actually, most of our clients to date have had their own team with them, so they bring their own hairdresser with them. They may be performing in a show. They have their own PA with them. They have their manager with them. But and we have a link up because we're very close to the new Nobu, so they've been very good to us. We've had weddings being made at the Nobu where you've had 200 or 300 people. It's quite interesting. And the bride doesn't want to stay there with all the guests. She wants to be in private with her family. So then
Henry's.
we take them to Henry's. We pamper them, get the whole team in, and then they go to the Nobu for the party.
How about your country? Your hotel in the
Well,
countryside?
Temple, it's not a hotel. No. It's a retreat. It's a house. I've produced my own little Soho farmhouse before they did, of course, years ago. And it's near Stow-on-the-Wold, and it's a medieval manor house with converted barns. You take all or half. It's got tennis courts, swimming lakes, outdoor pool, everything you can imagine.
So you're ticking the wellness box.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I am, but I guess I am.
Joe, question for you, Joe. So I always have hoteliers reach out to me saying they've got a X amount of budget to spend. Where should they be putting their money into their hotel? Is there a space? This is a question for all of you, which is quite good. Is there a space which you would always say lobby, F&B?
I mean, the F&B is increasingly important, I think, to the ambience, the animation of a hotel. And I think that, you know, obviously Soho House has really well and truly proved that. But I think that the importance of that now is key and clear to a lot of owners. And I just think that when you go into a building, if you can feel that buzz and feel it, people pick up on it. If you go into an empty, staid lobby with a few pieces of furniture you don't quite like, you just, you know, instantly, am I in the right place? But if you see people that are like you or that are enjoying it, it's like, yeah, I want to get to know this. Actually, I'm going to stay here so I can do this anytime I want to do this. So, yeah, I think F&B, public areas, is really key for that theatre, which is why we love hotel design. It is theatrical as well. So yeah, that's key. I think getting the rooms right though, so that they become your sanctuary within the space as well, is really important.
I suppose Mayfair Townhouse is a perfect example. You walk into that lobby and you are straight away into that bar. Straight into the bar,
and that was a key decision because, I mean, we could have put the restaurant on the top floor with natural light, so when people have breakfast, they have lovely daylight. But for us, it was less of a concern because we saw that hotel as somewhere that people would grab a cocktail before and after.
That was Philip Stark's trick originally. When you walk into the door, you go straight into the bar.
Yeah. Well, it's where people hang out. It's where animation immediately. So you come through, you've got your room sorted, and then here's the place you can just down tools and sort of create that buzz. The restaurant works really well in the basement in terms of because of the lighting that we've thrown at it as well, how we've hidden that architectural lighting. To make and put colour on the wall, so we're not afraid of using colour in that property.
The great news here to all of us is I know for a fact that our tenants we've got over 300 here, are all very busy. We've got Ralph Lauren coming to the front. They've taken a huge unit. They're all, not just doing private homes, but they're really super busy doing commercial projects.
Going back to your question, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, we always felt hotels can be very wasteful of space, and they're not, particularly the lobbies in the hotels, they can feel very itinerant, very revolving door. Even some of the most beautiful hotels that I could cite, their lobby is slightly depressing in terms of the lack of what's going on. And so it's really important to make every bit of space work for you. And obviously the F&B, the bars are such a vibrant centre within the other house. And in fact, it'll be the same in Covent Garden. We've dropped down a 2-floor atrium of light so that all the bars are either in the atrium or looking upon the atrium. And I think that's a kind of really exciting way of approaching it. So I think that's really important. But for us, the club flats are really important. It's not just the public areas. There's a slight thing, well, the wow factor is the public areas. That's what's going to get photographed. That's what's going to be the Instagrammable moment. But for us, where people were actually living and staying, and if they were going to be staying for a few weeks or even for a year, with the onset of slow travel, I think it's so important. The fact that people can work from where they're vacationing, that space is really important. One of our absolute fundamental precepts, which was really very novel, was that you always go into your sitting room before you go into your bedroom. Now, how many hotels do you walk past the bed to get maybe to your desk or your sofa? How many serviced apartments do you go to your bedroom because they've been from a hotel mindset into your sitting room? You never do that at home. You are, in fact, shoving all your mess into your bedroom. So the design of our club flats has been absolutely exacting to make sure we space optimize, to make sure that you have a decent amount of wardrobe space, because how many hotels actually never give you enough wardrobing space, even if you're only there for a short holiday. So to me, although the public eye may be on the public areas, the personal eye is on the personal areas, and that is really fundamental too.
Actually, you're completely correct. For us, storage is a major problem because we have stays for a month or two, and they come. We have no lift at Henry's actually, so they come with trunk loads. They really do. So I've used all the vaults and dried them all out under the road, and we store everything away there. But it's a real problem actually. The Regency has.
And you need to add storage. So for our Pierre de Terre users or our long stayers who want to go away on holiday, we will store all their kit and then bring it back out again. So if you are coming in a few days a month, you can come and then leave your kit, come back when you want it.
And also,
so
you
storage
see, they
is really
come
important.
to us and they're going. They might be. We had a singer, and she probably was with us. Then she was Las Vegas. They're going around the world. The Sunrise. Well, they had luggage as if you're going on the Titanic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is very, very pertinent because we're opening up our lobbies to become this centre of activity. So Mövenpick has a concept called my Mövenpick Marketplace, which is technically based around the whole thing that you can buy anything any time of day. You can take part in any F&B activity any time of day. The lobby is no longer a reception. It is a place where people come to get their food, to interact, to work, and eventually check in and go to their rooms. So again, there's a whole thing, because we want to make sure that we also open our doors to the community, right? So there's a whole link between a property, especially an urban one, and how it opens its doors up to the community so you can generate traffic.
Okay, well, let me come back to you on that, though, because the Hoxton group, obviously, which is a workspace sharing, they're making it quite clear now that they want to start getting these people out who are not spending any money. So I know Ennismore is not your brand, if that makes sense. It's a sister, it's off to the side. But you're just talking about opening up that lobby. Are you going to have that same problem?
But see, it's all brand dependent as well, right? So depending where you're pitching. So I'm talking about Mövenpick, which is actually a 4-star entry-level brand. So it's really, and they have lots of products to sell, because Mövenpick in Europe, they have wine, chocolate, coffee, everything. So you can buy anything from that. But it's really, the key for us is opening the doors to the community because of the way the buildings are changing, the way they're being used, empty office blocks. How do you bring people back into empty office blocks? You have to diversify the offer. And maybe there's an opportunity for us to go in and have a hospitality set element to an office block, and then how that hybrid work sets itself up. There's new startup companies that are actually putting in hotel floors into high-rise office buildings. So there's obviously a need for that interaction. But also we're running things like the Aqua Design Awards this year. Every year we have student awards, and we go globally with them. And this year's idea was the 50-minute cities, like the fact that you don't need a car anymore, but can your neighborhood offer what you need for your everyday life? Can you go and work in a hotel? Can you go to the dentist in a hotel? Can you, is it within 15 minutes of your house? Can you go on foot? Can you have a much better life because you don't have to commute, you don't have to spend money? So we tasked these students, and we've had 120 entries from...
This is global, yeah?
Global, yeah, from 9 countries, in the world. Australia, North America, Middle East. And the stuff they've come up with in terms of we said to them, pick a space in a hotel that you think can be used otherwise by the neighborhood. The stuff they're coming up with is really inspiring, and it's a real wish of being in a space where you can have a level of service. That's the other thing, is you don't want to make your tea all the time. You don't want to tidy up after yourself all the time. But you don't want to pay a fortune to be a butler coming in to do it. So we have this opportunity to open our doors and coming up with ideas of having, I guess, more business through the doors. So at the end of the day...
But that's exactly what our residence club is doing. It's enabling you to be able to live every aspect of your life in an environment where you can have service if you want it, you can be on your own if you want it, but it's there and you can live there for a day, a week, a month, a year. It is a very traditional concept. There used to be those kind of environments where people used to stay in their clubs or stay in their hotels. And of course, in their very luxury hotels, people do have apartments, but they tend to be very high-end luxury hotels. This is a place where you can live in every aspect of the way you want to live, but in a rather nice environment where you don't actually have to do everything yourself if you don't want to.
Actually,
And I do
gentlemen's
think-
clubs, that's how they evolved in London 130 years ago. But actually, they're moving in the same direction. They're competition, actually, these days.
Of course.
Well, I mean, it is where the
They are.
market is moving and where there are not these discrete areas of your life that you can't combine, but you want to combine them all.
Yeah.
And and I agree with you with Hoxton. They are sick and tired of having people nursing a cup of coffee for a whole day using their electricity, but also not talking to anyone. And we absolutely don't want that. But with our other kitchen and our Isle of Monkey destination bar, I want those very much to be seen in their own right. You're not going to a hotel bar or a hotel restaurant. Who would want to? You are going to things with their own individual identities where you can actually feel that as a member of the community, you want to actually access that. And I want to bring the residents in, as well as enabling our residents who are living in the hotel to feel like a local.
Okay. When does South Kensington open?
Summertime, June.
June. Okay, June. Excellent. Okay. Let's talk quickly about Mondrian Shoreditch. Obviously, it's just opened. Lifestyle hotel for Ennismore, part of Aqua. How was that? Because obviously, Bebo's the famous restaurant there. It was a curtain hotel, wasn't it?
It was the curtain, victim through COVID, I believe. And we were purchased by the Reuben brothers, so we had an owner. And then we had, obviously, brand, and Ennismore were advising on that. They were recently had joined with Aqua, but they have a lot of experience in that area, obviously, Hoxton, etc. And it was a really quick, fast-paced renovation of that property to create the Mondrian. Lots of great ideas that came through, things like the nursery around the bells of St Clement's, all the churches. This hotel was at the centre of all of those churches, so it was sort of bringing the symbolism of the orange and also the sun of the Mondrian rising and setting in this property. And we brought that through in lots of different ways. And Bebo itself brought its own different brands and set of parameters. And we really had to sort of disconnect from what was going on in the lobby a little bit, but then create that sort of southern Spanish sort of flavour in that Shoreditch environment, which we feel we've captured. The roof terrace itself is great, and if you do stay there, you do get access. It's such a shame it's not open to the public, but it's such a great space, and it's really uplifted.
There's a swim pool, isn't there?
There's a bit of a swimming pool. It's not the
small.
25
It's
metre
not
pool.
25 metres. No, it's tiny.
Don't go for that, but go on a blue sky day. But yeah, it was really cool because luxury lifestyle project, very different, very fast paced. But we really enjoyed sort of doing that. It was about nine months it took.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Fed, we're going to finish with you. Something exclusive we can tell about Aqua. What's coming? I don't want to put you under pressure. You did say don't ever ask me anything like this.
Yeah, no. I mean, we have Orient Express launching a train service as well. You might have seen that. So this ties in with the opening in Rome.
Okay.
The future of the train is there for us to explore. And there's going to be more of that coming on. We have the new immersive guest room experience for Raffles coming. We have Emblems, which launched, which is our 5-star luxury collections brand.
Okay. That's enough. You don't need to tell me
there's a
anymore.
few-
Listen,
there's
I
a-
only wanted one. But
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. Okay, we are bang on time. Guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well done.
I actually think we could be here all afternoon. Goodness me, what a deep dive into what's really happening in hospitality. We've spoken about experience. Stephen says it's got to be different, while Federico says it's all about the guest journey. We've covered renovations, we've covered club flats, public spaces, historic buildings, flexible working, and even honesty bars. And we can't wait to see that huge, long subterranean pool in the old War Office next year. Thank you, panel. What an amazing afternoon. So inspiring, and it was just incredible. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And thank you, Jan, for chairing it so beautifully. Let's give them a really big clap.
Hey.